Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a romance mystery film, The Best Offer. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with Virgil, a well-respected managing director of an exclusive auction house, carefully cataloging the valuable objects in the basement of a manor. He identifies some vintage cabinets and chests before glimpsing a moldy piece of wood in a dark corner. He asks the family members if they'd be willing to gift it to him, as under all the mold is a painting. Afterward, Virgil goes to the salon to get his hair dyed. Then he picks out a suit and gloves from his own collection. The next day, he receives a call from a worried woman named Claire who mistakes him for his assistant. She nervously tells him that her parents left behind an enormous collection of paintings and other rare pieces, and she would like for Virgil to assess the collection. Virgil, still pretending to be his assistant, informs her that Virgil doesn't do initial appraisals. Claire insists that her father instructed her to trust Virgil, and only Virgil when it comes to the collection. Intrigued, Virgil goes to Claire's address, but no one answers the door. Later that day, Virgil conducts an auction. One of the pieces sold as a portrait, and it was bought by an old gentleman with long gray hair. Virgil then meets with the same gentleman, who turns out to be an old friend named Billy. He helps Virgil acquire valuable paintings by posing as a buyer, while Virgil auctions the paintings as being made by a different artist, thereby lowering the price significantly. Billy then buys the pieces and gives them to Virgil, with monetary compensation for him, of course. Because of this scam, Virgil has accumulated a very expensive collection of portraits. Billy also does paintings as a hobby, and although they are friends and partners, Virgil doesn't mince words when he says that Billy is not a true artist. That night, Virgil hides his newly acquired portrait in his secret room, behind his glove collection. The room is filled from top to bottom with beautiful portraits of women. The next morning, Claire calls Virgil and tries to explain why she stood him up. She says that she was in a car accident and apologizes for not making it to their appointment. Virgil softens upon hearing that she was hurt, and he promptly makes plans to meet Claire once more. He then goes to Claire's ancestral mansion again, and he is greeted by the caretaker. However, Claire couldn't make it again because she has a fever, but she instructed the caretaker to show Virgil around the house. The once grand mansion has been run down since Claire's parents died in quick succession a year ago, but every room is filled with promising art pieces. Virgil asks to see the cellar, and the caretaker leads him to a dusty room downstairs. Like the rest of the house, it's filled with furniture too. Virgil notices a strange metal gear lying on the floor. He takes the piece of metal to Robert, a trusted mechanical repairman. However, he couldn't tell Virgil much about the gear and its function. Virgil eventually starts cataloging the artifacts inside Claire's house. She promised she'll meet him there, but it's been hours and there's no sign of her yet. Virgil remarks that the house has been changed since he last visited, such as the key to the piano suddenly appearing and a glass pane in a cabinet is broken. Virgil tells the caretaker that if Claire doesn't show up soon, he will stop the inventory immediately. The caretaker gets Claire on the phone, and Virgil furiously tells her that he no longer wants to do business with someone who can't be transparent with him. Suddenly, one of the workers heaving a ladder loses its grip on it, and the ladder falls down the stairs, emitting a screeching sound. Virgil hears the same sound coming from Claire's end. This means that the woman is probably inside the house too and is hiding from Virgil in a nearby room. Still on the phone, Claire explains that her car was stolen that morning, and she had to go to the police station to report it. Virgil walks around the house trying to find where she is. Claire's voice begins to echo, and he commands that she show herself. She cuts their conversation short and tells him that she'll tell him everything if he calls later that night. Afterward, Virgil visits Robert again, who has inspected the gear, and noticed that the parts were melded together using an 18th century technique. This makes the gear and whichever contraption it belongs to very rare indeed. That night, Virgil dines with the caretaker and bribes him with money to tell him more about Claire. The caretaker reveals that in the little more than a decade he served her family, he has never seen Claire's face, not even once. Alone at his house, Virgil calls Claire. Contrary to what she promised him, she tells him that she wishes for Virgil to stop all ongoing operations regarding her family's belongings. The next day, Virgil conducts another auction. He presents an $8 million worth portrait as a forgery, and his friend Billy is in the audience again to bid on it. The auction ends at $90,000, which he sells to Billy, but an old woman protests and says that she put in her bid first. The other people also back up the woman's claim. Virgil has no choice but to honor her bid. Of course, the woman just thinks she bid on an excellent forgery, not knowing that it was an authentic portrait costing so much more. Meanwhile, Robert excitedly tells Virgil that he has found Jacques Vaucanson's signature on one of the gear pieces. Vaucanson was a famous maker of automatons in the 18th century, and this means that there must be an automaton among Claire's possessions. Robert says that if Virgil can get the other pieces, he can possibly rebuild the automaton. Virgil's assistant informs him that Claire has called and wants him to visit the mansion again to meet with her. He accepts and goes to her house again. She speaks to him behind a wall and tells him that she hasn't left her house since she was 13 because she is agoraphobic. She tells him that she feels like they are kindred spirits because he's seen how he always wears gloves, and she thinks that Virgil is afraid of touching other people the same way that going outside frightens her. While talking to her, Virgil sees another metal cog and picks it up. He tells Claire that he'll continue his partnership with her. Virgil then later goes out to dinner with Robert and hands him the newfound metal pieces. They celebrate the prospect of rebuilding a very expensive automaton. As the inventory of the furniture starts again, Virgil begins to find more and more metal pieces strewn around the house. He talks to Claire again and sees that she has a hole in the wall to peek through. She comments that he dyes his hair, and she doesn't trust people who dye their hair. Virgil bristles at her insult and leaves. Outside, the caretaker informs him that Claire wants to give him the keys so he can have easy access to the house. Virgil decides to get his hair back to its natural color. He then calls Claire and makes up with her. She compliments his gray hair this time as she's seeing him giving an interview on TV. Afterward, Claire doesn't contact or respond to him again, and Virgil begins to be worried about her. He calls the caretaker, who however tells him that he's been sick for days and now is unable to deliver food to Claire. Virgil then buys some groceries and heads to Claire's house. She's been sick too and didn't know who to call, and then she had a fall. Virgil tries to open the door to get her to the hospital, but she tells him to go away. Later on, Claire calls him and tells him that she's feeling much better. She also reveals that she works as an author and writes under a pseudonym. On the other hand, while Robert tinkers with the metal pieces that Virgil brings, Virgil asks him for advice on how to handle the growing closeness between him and Claire. Virgil pretends that it isn't him, but a friend who is falling for a woman trapped in a room. After one afternoon of working on the inventory with Claire, Virgil tells her he's leaving, but he hides behind a statue to finally see her. A pretty woman emerges from the room, and Virgil quietly leaves the mansion. Billy visits Virgil and gives him the painting they lost to the old woman. He tells him that he bought the painting from her because he knows how upset Virgil was when they weren't able to get it. On Claire's birthday, Virgil visits her with a bouquet of flowers, but she is enraged over the low valuation of the pieces. He assures her that the bids will go higher than that, but she feels insulted. Virgil is equally angry at her too and throws the flowers away. That night, she calls him while he's eating dinner alone. She is crying and despondent at how afraid she is of going outside. He immediately comes over and tries to persuade her to see a therapist regarding her agoraphobia, but Claire is much more comfortable speaking with him than a therapist. He notices that she moved one of the paintings, a portrait of a dark-haired woman. She tells him that it was her mother. Once again, Virgil pretends to leave, but hides behind the statue to spy on Claire. She walks out of the room in a bathrobe and talks to a director on the phone about Virgil. But Virgil drops his phone and she gets scared that there is someone in the house with her. He runs away, and Claire calls his phone to ask him for help. He returns and confesses that it was him spying on her. Claire gets angry at him and orders him to leave. But as he's walking down the stairs, Claire walks up behind him. Virgil tells her that he is compelled by his emotions to see her, and that he will never hurt her. Thanks to that, she allows him to touch her face. Virgil later shares the developments with Robert as the young man works on the automaton, which is almost completed. He encourages Virgil to surprise Claire to make her feel his affection. Therefore, Virgil splurges on some clothes and makeup for Claire, and she wears a dress for him. She is delighted by his presents. While putting on the makeup, she comes to the realization that Virgil is trying to convince her to go out. She resents him for trying to fix her, and so locks herself in her room. Virgil makes up for his mistake by preparing a lavish dinner for the two of them in Claire's house. He allows Robert to hide behind the statue and see Claire for himself. A few days later, Robert's girlfriend speaks with Virgil and tells him that she's worried that Robert is in love with another woman named Claire. Suspecting that Robert is trying to steal Claire, he confronts Robert in anger and takes back the automaton. Virgil then shows the professional pictures of Claire's art pieces to her. She then shows him her room, where he finds the remaining pieces needed for the automaton. He patches things up with Robert, and they agree to continue working on the automaton. One afternoon, Virgil arrives at her house, but Claire is missing. Together with Robert and the caretaker, they search for her, but to no avail. Virgil gets the idea to search for more secret rooms in the mansion. and down in the cellar, he finds Claire hiding. He gets Claire to a bathtub so she can clean up. She shares that she was in Prague with her first boyfriend, and they used to visit a local cafe there. Later, while walking, a car hit them, and he died. She never went out since then. Claire and Virgil spend a fantastic hormone night together. He is now irrevocably in deep love with her. One night, while walking home, some unknown men assault Virgil and beat him up. Claire finds him and overcomes her agoraphobia by accompanying him to the hospital, which deeply touches Virgil and gains his trust. Later, after Virgil recovers, he and Claire are happy together. So besotted with her, he shows her his secret room, full of priceless portraits in his collections. Claire is amazed by all the art hanging on his walls. Right then, he asks her to live with him, and she accepts. Claire and Virgil go out to dinner with Robert and his girlfriend. Claire informs him that she does not want to sell her family's pieces anymore. Virgil does not care anymore since he is Claire. He also announces that his auction in London next week will be his last. After he concludes his last auction, Billy goes up to him and says that he will miss Virgil. He has also sent him a painting of his to remind Virgil that he has what it takes to be an artist. Soon after, when Virgil returns to his apartment, Claire is not there. He sees the painting that Billy sent and is puzzled because it's the painting of Claire's mother. He picks it up and is about to hang it in his secret room. But to his horror, he finds out that all his expensive portraits are now gone. In the corner is the assembled automaton, playing a mischievous message from Robert taunting Virgil. The stress of the deception is too much for Virgil, and he gets hospitalized. While convalescing in an asylum, he reminisces about how it all came together for him. He had rushed to the villa to find Claire, but the gates were locked. He went to the pub across the street and saw a woman also named Claire, who was actually the true owner of the mansion. She mentioned that she'd been letting a young and nice engineer live in the house for 2 years now, which is probably Robert. Virgil saw that Robert's shop was now empty too. And finally, the painting that Billy sent him had an inscription on the back thanking Virgil for his best offer. It's revealed that Billy, Robert, and Claire had been working together for a long time to con Virgil out of his private collections. Claire was just a hormone trap, meant to seduce the love-thirsty Virgil, obtain his trust, and get him to show her where his secret room was. Sometime later, Virgil eventually gets discharged from the asylum. He moves to Prague, which is said to be the place where Claire met her first boyfriend, and still wonders if Claire's feelings had been true. The movie ends with Virgil going to the cafe Claire told him about and waiting for her to appear, dining alone like always. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.